our request, Chair, that we're requesting to start our media briefing at 10. Therefore, I guess that the questions and answers are saved for the members rather than the media, because media, they've got a whole day with us to do what they want to do with us, and we'll do what we do with them. So it's a presentation of the crime stats 2018-2019. Basically, Chair, are statistics that are not very rosy. The General Stoller will work on that together with his generals to give us figures in a slides way, the slides that we'll put not on a thick way. Usually there are three elements of statistics that the emphasis is. It's on meta issues. Secretary, Chairperson. The second one is on the sexual offences. There'll be emphasis there. But one other thing that we have been dealing with for a very long time is legitimacy and authenticity of the statistics, where people, they always skim the statistics and say these lies and all that. I hope we have reached the station there where we don't answer on that one, because these are signed and approved by the Statistician General. Since 2011 up to this point, we have been working together with the Statistician General. So if you say they are lies, they are not them, don't ask us. And in the presentation, the man himself, the Statistician SG, will be there to validate the statistics, South African police statistics. So that's a question that we have put aside. Then we will call on the National Commissioner to make the figures visible of how we have done. So, and then we'll come back to the figures when the honourable members are asking us questions.
Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you very much, Chair and honourable members. Just to add at an operational level to what the Minister said, it's just a confirmation of the fact that an MOU was indeed signed between myself and the Statistician General, in which the stats were declared official. Our presentation shall be led by Major General Skukuni on the stats, with your permission, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much, General. You may be allowed to proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Ministers, members of the Portfolio Committee, National Commissioner, and all guests. I'll be taking you through the police recorded crime statistics for the financial year 2018-19. The presentation is structured in such a way that we first give a brief, broad overview in terms of the crimes that were reported to the South African Police Service. The table that we're currently seeing it's when we look at it over there, we see that in the current financial year, we had recorded 21,022 murders. That is an increase of 686, or 1.4% increase in the total number of murders that have been reported when compared to the previous financial year. The second category, which is the sexual offences, which is made up of the crimes of rape, sexual assault, attempted murder, sexual offences, and contact sexual offences, has increased by 2,312 cases. That is a 4.6% increase. The current number that we have recorded in the current financial year is 52,420. Then attempted murder, current financial year, we had recorded 18,980, a case difference of 747 when compared to the previous financial year, and a percentage increase of 4.1%. Then assault with intent to commit grievous bodily harm, we had reported 170,979, a case difference of 3,627, and a percentage change of 2.2%. Common assault, we have recorded an increase of 5,767 counts. That is, the total number of crimes that were reported was 162,012. That is a percentage increase of 3.7%. Common robbery, we have recorded an increase of 1,035 cases. That is the total number of 51,765 common robbery cases, an increase of 2.0%. Robbery with aggravating circumstances, we have recorded an increase of 140,000. We have recorded the number 140,032, a case difference of 1,668, an increase of 1.2. Now, this common robbery is made up of a number of crimes which include carjacking, robbery residential, robbery at non-residential, robbery of cash in transit, bank robbery, and truck hijacking. And these 6 crimes, they have all decreased with the exception of robbery at residential premises. Carjacking decreased by 1.8%, or 299 cases less. Robbery at the residential premises increased by 170 cases, or 0.8%. Robbery at non-residential premises increased by 56 cases, or 0.3% reduction. The decrease in the robbery of cash in transit was 55 cases less, or 23.1% reduction. Bank robbery decreased by 9 cases, and truck hijacking decreased by 20 cases. So that is the crimes that make up the category called robbery with aggravating circumstances. So the second category of broad categories of crime is your contact-related crimes, which is made up of only 2 types of crimes, that is arson and malicious damage to property. Both the 2 crimes have increased. Arson has increased by 214 cases. A number that was recorded was 4,083, a percentage change of 5.5% compared to the previous financial year. Malicious damage to property, we recorded 113,089 cases, an increase of 1,597, or a percentage change of 1.4. The total contact crimes increased by 1.6%, or 1,811 cases. Then the other broad category, which is your property-related crimes, which is made up of burglary at non-residential, burglary at residential, theft of motor vehicle, and theft out of motor vehicle and stock theft. Burglary at non-residential premises increased with 29 cases, a 0.0% increase because of the margins of increase, and the volume renders that the percentage change becomes a 0.0% increase. Then burglary at residential premises increased by 7,229 or 3.2% increase. The number that was recorded in that case was 220,865. I'm sorry, I said an increase. It is actually a decrease in burglary at the residential premises of 7,229 or 3.2% decrease. Then theft of motor vehicle and motorcycle decreased by 2,339. The number that was reported was 48,324 from 50,663. That is, in the 2017-18 financial year, we reported 50,663. Currently, we reported 48,324. The difference is 2,339, and the percentage decrease is 4.6. Then theft out of or from motor vehicle, in 2017-18 we reported 129, 174. Currently we have 127,076. The decrease there is 4,089, and the percentage change is a 3.2 decrease. Then in terms of stock theft, which is the only crime that has decreased by triple digit in this instance of the property related crimes, that is 823 cases more in the current financial year, or a 2.9% increase. In 2017-18 we reported 28,849. Currently we reported 29,672. The case increase is 823. The percentage change is 22.9%. However, the broad category of property-related crimes as a whole decreased by 12,814. That is a 2.5% decrease. Then we had other serious crimes, which has increased by 1.4%, and the 17 community reported crimes overall increased by 0.7%, or 11,175. Then in terms of crimes detected as a result of police action, where the desirable change should be on the upwards, is that we had recorded decreases, unfortunately, in illegal possession of firearms. That is, we have retrieved less firearms in the current financial year than we had in the 2017-18 financial year. That is 1,822 firearms less. That is firearms and ammunition. Then drug-related crimes, we had recorded a decrease of 90,890 instances. From 2017-18, we had 323,547. Currently, we have 232,657. And the margin of decrease there in that instance might have been as a result of the change in legislation, which normalized the possession of dagga for personal use, leading to the reduction that we are currently seeing of 90,890 cases. Then driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, we recorded a decrease of 328, or 3.8% decrease. Sexual offences detected as a result of police action increased by 1,275, or 19.0%. That is, we moved from 6,701 in 2017-18 to 7,976. Overall, total crimes detected as a result of police action decreased by 94,685, or 21.8. Now, here we're looking at the percentage contribution of the 17 community reported crimes and the crime detected as a result of police action to the overall 21 crimes that we are reporting on. The 17 community reported crimes, we have reported 1,673,990 charges, and the biggest contributor to this 17 community reported crimes was contact crimes. That is your murder, attempted murder, assault, GBH, assault, common robbery, and total sexual offenses, and robbery with aggravating circumstances. These crimes contributed 36.9% to the total of 17 community reported crimes. The second highest was property related crimes, which is made up of your motor vehicle related, theft of motor vehicle, burglary, res and non-res, and also stock theft. These crimes contributed 29.6%, or 495,161. Then we had also other serious crimes, which contributed 26.6%. Contact related contributed 7.0%. Then crime detected as a result of police action are shown on the other slide, which is the highest contributor there being your drug-related crime. Even though they come down, they are still the highest contributor in terms of the crime that have been detected as a result of police action. Then the broad categories, we have already indicated that contact crimes decreased by 2.6%, or 15,000, increased by 15,844. Contact related increased by 1.6%. The count is 1,811. Property related decreased by 12,804. The percentage change is 2.5. Other serious increased by 6,334, and the percentage change is 1.4. The individual crimes that make up the contact crimes is murder. In the current financial year, we had 686 increase counts in terms of murder. The percentage change is 3.4%. As the minister indicated that one of the crimes that maybe we need to focus on is the murder. What we have observed is that most of these murders, that is 12,390 of the 21,022 murders, happened from Friday up to Sunday. That is, the Friday, the weekends, contribute 60% of the murders. Now, if you add Monday to these 3 days, you end up with a figure of 14,796 murders committed on Monday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that is a 70% contribution to the total number of murders that have been reported in the current financial year. Then 3,567 of these murders happened on between Saturday 9 o'clock in the evening to Sunday 3 o'clock in the morning. That might be an indicator that during those periods there is high alcohol intake abuse and also drug-related abuse. Furthermore, what we have observed is that 7,176 of these murders were committed with firearms, 4,720 were committed with knives, 1,552 were committed with sharp instruments. So in total, these 3 types of weapons were used in the commission of 13,428 murders, mostly happening from Saturday and Monday, and mostly between the hours of 9 in the evening on Saturday to 3 o'clock in the morning. That is 64% of the murders were contributed or were committed by these types of 3 weapons: guns, firearms, and knives, and all guns, sharp instruments, and knives. Then sexual offenses, we have already talked to it. And then what we have observed in terms of the contributory factors to attempted murder is that most of the causes of attempted murder are the same as the causes of murder. And the times on which the attempted murders are committed is the same as the times on which the murders are committed. The instruments used in the commission of attempted murders is almost the same, that is firearms throughout. The only province that had a difference in terms of the weapon used to commit attempted murder was the Northern Cape, where the instrument that is used in most instances in the Northern Cape, it's a knife. Then assault GBH is the same basket as attempted murder and murder. Then common assault has also increased, common robbery increased. Robbery aggravating, we have seen the 6 crimes that make up robbery aggravating have gone down. Only exception was the robbery at rest. Then this slide, we looked at the 10-year trend in terms of the murders that we have been reporting. In 2008-9, we had 18,084 murders. Then we reduced these murders over the 3-year period because those 3 years we are seeing reduction. Then in the year 2011-12, we started observing increases. The slide was added after discussions with the minister. So in the previous financial year, we had an increase of 1,320 murders. However, that number has halved when you consider the increase in the current financial year. That is, currently we had added only 686 murders. Then the provincial breakdown in terms of the contact crimes. When we look at the provincial breakdown, all the provinces have recorded increases when we consider the contact crimes. The volumes were recorded in the KZN, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and also Gauteng and KZN. So these contact crimes, remember, these are the crimes that are committed against a person. And if you take into consideration that the 4 provinces that we mentioned are the most populous provinces, this might be an indication of the number of people that are available that can be marked, and not necessarily the intensity of the crimes within that particular province. So there are more people available in the 4 provinces that I mentioned that are potential victims to crime rather than the actual number of crimes that are committed. You have a broader scope to commit those because there are many people in those provinces. And when you look at Gauteng, especially in terms of this, I believe it has also the highest number of ATMs, it has the highest number of cars, it has the highest number of businesses. So it makes sense then that the volumes will lie mostly in those provinces. Then when you look at the stations that are in the top 30, you observe that 16 of those stations in the top 30 contact crime are in Gauteng, 8 are in the Western Cape, 4 are in KZN province, and 1 each in Mpumalanga and the Free State. Then we get to the trio crimes, which is your carjacking, robbery residential, and robbery at non-residential premises. The provinces that have decreased in terms of the trio crimes is your Gauteng, Western Cape, and Limpopo. Then the other provinces have recorded increases when we consider the trio crime. The trio crime is the basket which is made up of carjacking, robbery residential, and robbery non-residential. We grouped them together because it was a cabinet decision that they wanted to see the trend in this basket of the crimes. Because there are 3, that's why we call them the trio crimes. Then the top 30 stations in terms of the trio crimes, Gauteng province had 19 stations in the trio crime top 30 stations. These are the stations that contributed the largest numbers in terms of volume to the trio crimes that have been reported in the current financial year. Then the second province is Western Cape, which has 7 stations. KZN has 2, Mpumalanga and Free State had 1 in the top 30. Then we look at the crimes committed against women and children. We look at the murder, total sexual offences, attempted murder, assault, GBH, and common assaults that have been committed against women. And we also looked at the same basket of crimes that have been committed against children. Murder for women was 2,771. It is a reduction of 159 counts and a percentage change of 5.4. Total sexual offences, the volume is 36,957, a reduction of 134, and then a percentage change of 0.4. Similarly, attempted murder, we had reported 3,445, assault GBH 54,142, common assault we had 82,000. Now, the murder of children that we reported in the current financial year, it's 1,014, that is 29 cases more than the previous financial year. Sexual offences against children has also increased by 899. One thing that maybe we need to mention in terms of the murders that are committed against children is that when we looked at the number of crimes or children in conflict with the law, we have observed that some of these murders against children are committed by other children themselves. We had the number where we showed the murders that have been committed by children in the current financial year was 736. That is instances where the children were the perpetrators and not the victims of the murder. Then another figure that is quite concerning is the common assault, which has been committed by children, ranging at 4,196. We then again looked at the causative factors. We have already touched on causative factors emanating from misunderstanding and domestic violence. And we showed that most of these happen between, especially in terms of murder, between Friday and Sunday, especially in the early hours of the morning or late hours in the evening. When you bring in the two, assault GBH and domestic violence, that resulted in assault GBH. Together these two numbers give you around 46,000. That is 46,000 of assault GBH emanated either from domestic violence and misunderstanding or arguments. The murders that resulted from arguments is 1,727. Domestic violence is 1,150. The other thing that we have observed is that this misunderstanding and domestic violence happens mostly indoor, and it is normally amongst people who are known to each other. And we have quantified those numbers to show that if you take the use of alcohol and the times in which they are happening, it is quite likely that the contributory factor to these arguments and misunderstanding and domestic violence is alcohol or drug-related induced. Then gang-related murders, currently we had 1,120. Armed robbery, murders that emanated from armed robbery, 789. Revenge is 256. Taxi violence is 321. Illegal mining, 62. Factions or conflict, it's 40, and political related, it's 8. Then we also looked at the murders of police officials, then compared with the murders that had happened, because we in the previous slide we showed causative factors. We also showed the murders between women and children. Now, because we don't think that this is a causative factor, but it is people or certain criteria of people that happen to be targeted. The matter of police officials, those that were killed in the current financial year, whilst on duty, was 28. And we provided a provincial breakdown in terms of which are the provinces whereby the police officials were killed on duty, and we found that it was Gauteng. 49 police officials were killed whilst they were off duty, and the contributory province was KZN. Then when we look at the matter of farm matters or matters on farms and small holdings, we had 47 matters that happened in 41 incidents. Some of these matters, 22, happened during a robbery at a residential. Some they also happened with attempted murder, 2 assault GBH, and a case of stock theft. Then in terms of property-related crimes, we looked at the broad overview because we felt that we wouldn't have enough time to go into the details given that the session is only 1 hour. We just gave the highlights of the property-related crimes. Burglary at the non-residential increased, burglary at the residential decreased, theft of motor vehicle decreased, theft out of or from motor vehicle also decreased. Then stock theft, which is a concern, it has been increasing for the past 3 or 4 years, and it has been increasing across all the 9 provinces. What is of concern is that if you take the types of animals and attach a ballpark figure, the number of animals amounts to around millions, even double-digit or triple-digit millions. So it's a cause for concern because this is a type of institution or livestock is used mostly as a type of a bank for people in the poor and rural communities, whereby they sell some of these cows to be able to educate their kids or to pay for their tuition fees. So it is a cause for concern, and we need to focus more on it so that we bring it down. And that is the last of my slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, General. Honourable Minister, would you like to add?
Definitely not much to add, except that one problem on the matters, unfortunately, is not recorded as such. There is a very high number of people that are murdered by the people they know, or very high. The case in Mpumalanga at the present moment of 4 kids murdered by the mother, all those cases are registered as murder. But we are trying to come with different codes. People that, because it would be very difficult for the police to police such cases where people known to another family members, they call it crimes of passion, those that are married, those that are bajolayo, are kids and all that. So it's one category. But what we have discovered, it has really pushed up on questions of murders. The causation also will be looking at it. Maybe we'll be getting some sociologists, psychologists to help us on these causations things. Why people they behave on weekend as if they've just come from the moon. All of a sudden, the same people you know, they behave differently come the weekend. So I think we do need some form of assistance, professional assistance on those matters. That is why, Chairperson, maybe a later stage in the press briefing, we are opening ourselves as the South African Police to invite every and whoever that thinks can make the contribution. It cannot be a closed book working on those matters going forward. So that's what we can add for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Members, I'll give you an opportunity for questions. Could we kindly please remember that the Minister is having a press briefing at 10. We respect that. It is not unusual. We know that is the normal procedure. So we'll release the Minister and his team by 10 to 10 for the latest. I'll take questions. The first round, I think we'll stick to one round of questions. Honorable Whitfield, Blanche, Mofokeng, Groenewald, Majosi, Mafanya. Could we start with Honorable Whitfield?
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much for the presentation. I don't think there's a single person in the room that isn't upset. As the Minister indicated originally, that these are not great results. In fact, they are cause for very, very serious concern. And I was just wanting to know and ask one or two very brief questions. The President in his State of the Nation address made the commitment that over the next 10 years, violent crime will be halved. So I'm very specifically interested to know what interventions SAPS has in place to deal with that commitment. We've seen that there remains an increase in violent crimes, even though there was a reduction in murders, but an increase overall. And then I wanted to know what the causes that have been identified for the trend since 2012, the increase since 2012, if we can get an indication of that. And then there was a specific reference on, I think it was page 2 of the presentation, where it related to crimes that were detected as a result of police action. Could we just get a brief explanation, as much detail as possible, what the process is? So, for example, sexual offences detected as a result of police action, if we can just get an explanation of what that actually means. So what did the police do in those instances to detect those crimes and prevent them? And then I suppose that entire category, just what measures SAPS has in place to detect. And then the overall decline on that category of 21.8%, what is the reason for that? Is it a lack of visible policing? Is it a lack of human resources? Because ultimately this committee also has a responsibility to ensure that we see different results in the next year. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable De Blanche, could we restrict the questions to 2, please?
I'll keep it short, Chairperson.
Thank you.
Chairperson, just maybe just something to note. The presenter said that this is for the current financial year. This is not the case. This is the previous financial year. The statistics is only up to the end of March. So the statistics that we're dealing with is 6 months old. And that is maybe part of the problem, that we don't have recent statistics. This is the latest statistics, but we don't know what is happening. And I'm thinking, Minister, about, the crime wave in the Western Cape and other places, just to make the point. Chairperson, anywhere in the world or nowhere in the world, there are accurate crime statistics. In the best scenarios, you get about 60%, correctness, best cases in the world. And the most reliable statistics is obviously the murder rate. And if you look at the murder rate, it's alarming. It's very alarming. 21,002 murders. That is really a very, very alarming figure. And then the last thing that I want to raise, I have a lot of things, Chairperson, but obviously the time doesn't allow that. We learned that the majority of the crimes are committed over weekends. The Major General told us that. And the most accurate crime statistics that you can get, is the reported crime. And my question is, to what extent from the previous financial year has the police, directed their resources to deal with that? Because it's committed over weekends. And quite often you see that the police are sitting at home over weekends, the majority of them. That is my questions for now, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mofokeng.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you for the presentation from the department. It is very clear, Chairperson, that the crime, actually, the sexual offences, says there's war against women. And that's where actually it starts, that we must actually intensify the fight. But also what actually disturbs, when you look at the first slide, it tells us a lot. And I'm glad that the Minister will be able to answer on this, that in 2011, 2012, I'm sure you were in that office, and then the crime went down. Suddenly it changed. What is it that happened that we should know during that time and even the time now, and we are back? We will need to know what is it that was happening that the police couldn't actually keep on that. And the last one is that I don't get on the information that you are giving, that if we talk about the misunderstanding and the domestic violence issues, why don't we get the information about the domestic violence register in police stations? Are they working? How many police stations are using it? And at the same breath, why don't we have a register of the protection orders? Because they start at the police, then they go to the court, they come back to you, and most of the time, women in those registers, they die. So that register and that information, I really want to know that. Why don't we get it? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member Mofokeng. Honourable Member Groenewald.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, yes, I can also say I think it is alarming if we look at the figures, and I think what is of interest, if you look at the total contact crimes, we're talking about more than 617,000 cases with an increase, and it is the 7th consecutive year that we have an increase, specific when it comes to murder. And if we look at the total sexual offences, we must also remember that these figures are not actually what actually happens, in the sense that there are many of these crimes that are not reported. If this is the indication, we must understand that the problem is much worse than that. So it is quite clear that we have a country, and a violent country, which we will have to take drastic steps. My question, Chairperson, is I just want some clarity. Firstly, on the farm murders, it says 47 murder counts in 41 incidents. I just want some more clarity on that. And I think there are differences on the figure itself. But further, I just want to ask more clarity on your causative factors. You refer to the 3 contact crimes, and you give some factors here like arguments and everything. But can I ask, because we're talking about there were 21,000 murders. If we look at these figures, we're talking about here about 6,000. The other murders, what would you say is amongst those one of the biggest factors that causes the murder? Because this doesn't make really sense. Well, it gives me an indication. But what about, can I say, the other 16,000 murders as far as causative factors are concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Groenewald. Honourable Member Majosi.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Greetings to Honourable members. Maybe firstly is to also concur with other Honourable members that we acknowledge that there is a problem in terms of the increase in the state's crime. And also the fear of women and children being killed is not going to go anywhere anytime soon, because which means we are still faced with a very, very serious problem till today, as much as we've seen on the past week of what has happened to the killings of women and children. But Chairperson, maybe let me start off by saying that the Minister spoke of people who get excited during weekends. as if they're coming from the moon because they indulge in alcohol and drug abuse. But I want to find out what is the strategy of the police in terms of eradicating the drug lords, because we cannot deal with the top on sherry problem while there is a fundamental issue that we must deal with of the drug lords, that we must make sure that they are off the streets, the drugs are no longer there, so that we make sure that we decrease all these other incidents that will be reported in police stations. And there is an increase in certain provinces that the general who was presenting now was speaking of. We can see the distinguish of how these provinces are. What is then the department is willing to do? Because when you see Gauteng, it's high, Western Cape and so forth, but there is a distinguish of crime that is happening in all these provinces. It's not the same thing that is happening. What is then the department willing to do? Because we must also talk of the decentralization of power from national to provinces, so that provinces can deal with its problems on its merits, so that they understand what is it that they are dealing with. And maybe also we should look at the fact that, because they did come, Honorable Chair, to speak on the programs that they have. Maybe also we should also speak on the increment of police officers during weekends. I think that is where we have to zoom in more and maybe increase a number of police officers that will be deployed during from Friday or from Thursday to Monday, so that there is the raiding in streets, and that could maybe also decrease the number of crimes that will be reported. And also just to say, I think you had a good strategy, because I see on your trio crimes there you've got a decrease on hijackings, and there is a bit of change that we see, that there is a decrease of crime on some of the changes. Maybe that strategy that was used there, maybe it could be implemented, not the same, but another strategy could be implemented on certain other crimes, so that we try and find a way forward. Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely, Honourable Member. Thank you, Honourable Member Mafanya.
Thank you for the well-thought presentation. The Minister, over a period of 10 years, we have had almost 200,000 murders in the country. And it's a sign that it's a country at war with itself. The issue is that I propose, because I come with solutions for now, I propose that we should have a security cluster summit, because it is quite clear that the police alone cannot deal decisively with crime, where we will have to have interdepartmental approach to crime in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Members. Honourable Minister, Deputy Minister, General Sitole and the team, the responses do not need to be specifically to each question. You could give us a summary of your responses. We'll be requesting the team to respond to us next week, Wednesday. We'll have a more in-depth discussion of the statistics next week, Wednesday. So please do not say that your question was not answered. Honourable Minister, you have as much time as you need, bearing in mind that your next appointment is about to happen. So use your time, whatever you need, and the rest we could do next week, Wednesday. Thank you, Minister.
Chairperson, thanks. It's a request we are going to make to say, as is, we are not doing justice to the subject. So if we are given that opportunity to come and do justice to the subject, it's a serious subject that all of us was, according to put the shoulder on the wheel on this one. Maybe that's suffice. That's enough to say. It talks about 10 years and the increase. There is a slight that you put a question on that I would like to, if the graph of going down and up, if we can find that slide there. Because that's a major question that you're supposed to answer. What happened? So the history, honorable members, of the statistics special matter is that it started after the democratic dispensation. And I'm told that the first figure was 31,000 murder a year. And the trend has been that you will eat 1,000 going down. So it should be 30,000, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27. It has been so all the time. We broke the record of the trend in 2010. We moved straight from 18,000 to 16,000. There was no 17. And then 2010 to 2011-12, we sustained. We went down to 15. Some odds. We have been calculating. If we have kept that trend, it would be 7,000 this year. It would be 7,000 this year. Now, the question, and as Honorable Bheki instruct us, we must find out what happened 2012-13 up. So it is a question that we must answer. But looking at that, looking at that, your two columns, your two columns, if we work and we maintain that column too, we might find ourselves back to the better days. So last year is 1,320 increase. This year, though we have increased with 686, we have halved the previous increase here, which unfortunately we're not talking about cents and rands here. We're talking about human lives, even if it is one is too many. But if we maintain this kind of trend going down, we might go back to good days. So getting this opportunity, Chair, we will be able to tell the stories where we think things went wrong, where we're supposed to go back and fix things and all that kind of thing. So maybe keeping that for that particular day will help all of us, because indeed there were good practices that were dropped, no doubt about that. We need to pick up those practices, but we need to add on those practices going forward, so that we can go back. I don't know when we're going to reach 15,000 again from 21,000, but we are from there, that 15,000. So, but the question President asked, Mr. we from this department and the cluster, we believe that 10 years is too long. We really believe that 10 years is too long to have this. It could be done so long we go back to the tried, tested methodologies and acting, working together with everybody and achieving what has been achieved before. Because these things are doable. They have happened before. There was a time when South Africans will say, it's nice to be South African. No doubt about that. There was that time. We need to go back there. It was not the worst of times, though it was not best of times, because 15,000 people still dying was still a lot of. But to move from there up, it's a question of us dropping the ball and correcting that. Maybe that my last point, Chairperson. I hear the Honourable Terry Branch saying anywhere in the world on terms of states and everything. I'm not sure, because the story that I'm told that South Africa in Africa is the only one that gives crime stats. I'm told. In Africa. Yeah, I'm told that in Africa. So Now, it's going to make comparison difficult then if it's only us giving stats. So maybe we'll have to work on our methodologies without really grumbling on comparisons and all those kinds of stuff. Maybe those are the stories we'll have to tell. Even in Europe and all that, in other countries, Latin America and all that, who give the stats and all. But let's work with our understanding what we want to achieve, because I'm told that in Africa it's only South Africa and nobody else. So to begin to compare us, and then I don't know how it happens when we don't know what is happening on those. But let's work with ourselves. As I've said, 3 major areas: women issues, which are bad here, lives that are lost, which are bad, and the fear factor, those crimes that make South Africans live in fear, like your house robbery. House robbery, they wait for you to come inside. House burglary, they wait for you to get out and they take your stuff. House robbery, they wait for you to come in, and then as you settle with the family, they come in. So I just imagine that fear sitting with the family, and the barrel of the gun is on your face, sitting with the family. So those are the things that, on behalf of South Africa, we'll have to work hard. But we will really use both hands to take the opportunity to come and sit down, and maybe not going on the summary of presentation there, going to the full kind of presentation, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member and your team. We wish to thank the Minister and the police who serve our country and our community. Minister, what we believe is that what we've achieved before was during your time as the Police Commissioner. So we have all the confidence that as you are leading our team as the Minister, you have the experience, the political will, and the ability to take and lead this country forward. We cannot accept that the crime statistics are this bad. And in this period where crimes against women and children have increased, please, we are still in a meeting. Could you respect our meeting? It's really irritating if you do not respect this meeting. So crimes against women and children and crimes against the population is worsened. We should have no place for this kind of lawlessness in our country. There should also be no place for police officers who do not serve the community. Honourable Minister, this is the first time that almost all violent crimes have gone up. So we want to say that you cannot solve this alone. As a committee, we are committed to doing oversight, but we'll work hard at supporting you, supporting the General, supporting the Deputy Minister, to ensure that we work as a team, that we leave no stone unturned in addressing the scourge of crime in our country. Our President said that crime is an act of violence against humanity. We work with our President, we will work with you to ensure that this situation does not continue unabated. I'd like to thank the Minister. We wish you well, and we know that our country is in safe hands. Thank you, honourable members, and to our guests, thank you very much.
As a police service, we aim to achieve this goal in the shortest possible time. Therefore, all our resources and operational strategies have been channeled accordingly towards achieving this target. However, members of the media, in the past year since I joined the police ministry again, we have thoroughly analyzed and debated the crime trends with the management team of the police, with specific emphasis on the number of murders as our common denominator. It is always advisable to give background in order to better contextualize any subject matter. Statistics have proven that the number of murders reported decreased from 18,084 to 15,554 during the period 2009 to 2012. Again, members of the media, statistics have proven that the number of murders have drastically increased to over 4,123 in the past 6 years. This background is important to contextualize the debate of whether we are increasing, maintaining, or decreasing in this trend, having to focus specifically on murders. Therefore, we all need to have full appreciation of task at hand given to this current leadership. The reversal of 6 years is a mammoth task, but it is doable. Fellow South Africans, during my budget vote presentation on the 11th July this year, I made several pronouncements of how we intend to turn around the police, including the introduction of units that were disbanded and some units under-resourced in the past 6 years. Capacitating specialized units, detectives, hawks, and crime intelligence was also announced. Part of the pronouncement was the establishment of the Ministerial Advisory Council. This is aimed at bringing knowledge and expertise from subject experts in policing together with former generals of the police that made a positive impact during the tenure. Consultation in this regard have commenced. Last week, Friday, we had a fruitful meeting with the Institute for Security Studies in this regard. I'm intended to meet other relevant stakeholders in the sector, like Corruption Watch, that we have an outstanding date already, Social Justice Coalition, and academic fraternity, and all people that are willing and are available to make a positive contribution to the reduction of crime. The joint intergovernmental approach to the fight against crime will also yield positive results going forward, because fighting crime is everybody's responsibility. In the past year, we have put a lot of resources to curb cash in transit haste and other trio crimes, and this yielded positive outcomes in this regard. Another major intervention to address the scourge of murder in our murder is our specific focus on the Western Cape, which has a high murder rate. We have introduced Operation Thunder, anti-gang unit respectively, and the SANDF intervention of Operation Lockdown is another government intervention to date. Last year, when we released crime stats on the 2017-18 financial year, I said we dropped the ball. And I further said, next year, meaning the following financial year, we will either reduce, maintain, but definitely will not increase. Ladies and gentlemen, I am leading this team this morning to give that account. I am here to say, yes, the crime statistics are not looking good. However, they look much better than last year in addressing the 6-year drastic increase in most crime categories. In the previous financial year, the number of murders increased by 1,320. That figure was halved in the financial year following 2018-19 to 686. It still increased overall, but the increase of last year was decreased. This means the rate of increase is slowing down. However, when this is translated to percentage change, the figure reflects an increase of 2.6 in all contact crimes, and the 17 community reported crimes increased by 0.7%. Members of the media, all categories of crime under aggravated robbery decreased, except the robbery at the residential premises, where we registered an increase of 0.8. While we are not where we want to be, we are definitely not where we were last time. There are glimmers of improvements. We have recorded decreases in crimes of fear, such as cash in transit, bank robberies, car and truck hijack, as well as robbery at the non-residential premises. Intelligence has played a big role in infiltrating would-be robbers of cash vans and foiled their plans in many parts of the country. Police visibility at malls and other public areas has ensured that we are a step closer to achieving goals set out in the National Development Plan. The National Stability Intervention Plan, which includes Crime Intelligence Special Task Force, National Intervention Unit, and Technical Response Teams for quick mobilization, has also gone a long way in tackling trio crimes. We believe that the rebuilding of crime intelligence, hawks, and better working relationship with state security agents, National Prosecuting Authority, Department of Justice, and Department of Defense will continue to produce favorable results going forward. We will spread the focus and resources to areas of concern to ensure that results are improved. The crime statistics to be presented cover 21 crimes categories, namely 17 community reported crimes and 4 other crimes categories detected as a result of police action. The scope of the crimes was reported at all 1,154 police stations, including satellite stations and ports of entry nationwide. All crimes were either reported by the victim, witnesses, third parties, or detected by members of the South African Police Service. The Family Violence, Crime Protection and Sexual Offences (FCS) unit continues to be one of the best units within the South African Police, with the fundamental responsibility to protect and serve women and children, vulnerable groups. The FCS has 185 units to deal with gender-based violence, including sexual offences. In the past financial year of 2018-19, the FCS recorded 658 life sentences out of 504 registered cases. It is through the highly specialized investigating work that 387 suspects were sentenced to 20 years and above. Since the re-establishment of the FCS achieved the following life sentences: 2010-11, there were 167. These are not people sent to prison, these are lifers sent to life sentences. 167. 2011-2012, 389 life sentences. 2012-2013, 826 life sentences. 2013-2014, 645 life sentences. 2014-15, 612. 15-16, 298. 16-17, 511. 17-18, 692. 18-19, 665. It is a total of 4,798 life sentences that has been achieved by this unit, FCS. Plan to increase the number of the FCS units countrywide and to recruit and train more women officers to work within the specialized environment are underway. To further fight the scourge of violence against women, we have heeded the President Ramaphosa's call to reopen the investigation of all cold cases, gender-based crime in the country. The National Commissioner here, with the head of the detectives, Lieutenant General Mosigiti, are already working on the team, as the President instructed last week, to revisit all these cold sexual offense cases. Fellow South African members of the media, the 2018-2019 annual crime statistics were declared as official statistics in line with prescript of the South African Statistics Quality Assessment Framework. This stamp of the approval will finally put to the rest question of the authenticity and legitimacy of the crime stats. For that reason, before I hand it over to the National Commissioner with the team to work on the actual figures, I will then invite the Statistician General to have a word in terms of working together to to improve the legitimacy of these stats, which has been a big question, most of the time. But are you telling lies, or are you giving us stats because we don't know what is your authority of it? So the Statistician General is here to be part of us moving forward.
Let me thank the Minister, and again note the Deputy Minister, the Commissioner, Deputy Commissioners, and members of the media who always assist us to communicate to the public. Firstly is that the Statistician General is responsible for official and other statistics. And the Statistician General gives only facts, nothing else but facts. I heard the Minister saying that the numbers have gone down, have gone up. The Statistician General doesn't have those emotional attachment to numbers. Whether a number is high or low, it's not for the Statistician General to worry about. The Statistician General makes numbers available to the nation. But let's come specifically to the crime statistics of 2018-2019. What has happened is that since 2010, we've been working together with the South African Police Services in relation to looking at the quality of statistics. And we will remember that in the past, statistics had gone through a moratorium following quality challenges that had occurred, a matter that we can talk about some other day. But when we look at statistics using the South African National Quality Assessment Framework, what we call SASCAF, as stats say, we look at statistics as being poor statistics, acceptable statistics. Before we come to acceptable, we have questionable statistics, acceptable statistics, and quality statistics. Only when we reach a status of quality statistics can statistics be released as official. But they still have to go through processes in the form of clearance processes that we have to uphold as standards. Now, coming to the 2018-2019 crime statistics, the Statistics Act does allow the Statistician General to designate any of the statistics as official, whether they are collected by any organ of the state, and in this case, the South African Police Services is within the remits of that and the relationship that we have worked together. Let me mention that such relationship has never contaminated in any form the way we assess the statistics to be of quality and then official. One of the things that we have done in the past, we have taken them through a lighter version of the South African quality, statistical quality assessment framework. But this time we took them through all the cohorts, and these cohorts include, amongst other issues, accessibility, timeliness, coherence, methodological soundness, and of course, as we took them through, they did qualify. Now, having qualified to be official statistics, I had to sign a statement as Statistician General of South Africa, designating these statistics now having reached an official status. But such status is not given and guaranteed. It has to be upheld. But before it is upheld, the South African Police Services have to come back to the Statistician General by 2021 with certain prescripts, while they are maintaining the status of official statistics. They have to come back with standards that relate to the work that they do in relation to crime statistics. They have to come back with a program of release. The release date must be published up front, so we'll know by 2021 that we will know on which day, like we do with the GDP. The nation and the world know at what point the GDP, the CPI, the quarterly labor force statistics are coming up. And of course, they also have to come with the terms and conditions of engagement in relation to the United Nations fundamental principles of official statistics. Should the Statistician General at any given point realize that the prescripts of methodological soundness, accessibility, timeliness, comparability, accuracy, and others are not upheld, we will withdraw that status of official statistics. So the crime statistics can be any other statistics. They can be acceptable, but they will not be official. So we have agreed with the commissioner here, myself and the commissioner met in representing the South African Police Services, and of course in representing the ministry, to ensure that these are upheld. At no given moment, not even on crime statistics or any other statistics, should the statistician general come under pressure to provide any situation of favor or prejudice. The statistician general has to uphold his independence, and I can assure the nation that such independence shall always be upheld, and these statistics that you are about to receive, I therefore declare them official. I thank you.
Okay. Now, give us raw figures, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the opportunity. Just a confirmation that we both signed of the crime stats as official with the statistician general. But the figures shall be presented to the public with the permission of the Minister by General Skoko. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, National Commissioner, members of the media, and colleagues. I'll be taking you through the 2018-19 financial year crime statistics.
Can you please get a copy? Because it does help to be able to read. Yeah.
Members of the media, please note that there is a copy on our website, but also we have distributed a copy of the stats and the minister's speech. So I'll ask my colleague to possibly maybe give you a hard copy if that will help you. Sure. All right, but let's just move on while we do that.
Thank you. I'm going to present the 2018-19 financial year crime statistics. As I've already gone into the details in the portfolio committee on police, I will stick only to the crime categories as presented in the national tables. Then the provincial personnel will go and present the provincial statistics in the relative provinces. And we'll be going back to the portfolio committee, I think next week Wednesday, to give a more detailed presentation in terms of the statistics. So I will try to limit my presentation to as reasonable time as possible for covering what is of concern. The crimes that we'll be reporting on, we're starting with those that are called contact crimes, which are made up of murder, sexual offences, attempted murder, assault GBH, common assault, common robbery, and robbery with aggravating circumstances. So in the current financial year, the murder statistics that we have reported is 21,022. When we compare this to the previous financial year, which is 20,336, there is an increase of 686 murders within this current reference period, and the percentage change is 1.4. Sexual offences, which is made up of these other crimes, that is the 4 crimes: rape, sexual assault, attempted sexual offences, and contact sexual offences. The 4 crimes together are clumped together to form what is called sexual offences. And in the current financial year, we had reported 52,420 of those. That is an increase of 2,312, or 4.6% increase. The next category is attempted murder, which is more or less related to the causal factors that emanate from the murder, as we talked about in the portfolio committee. Currently, we recorded 890,000 murders from the previous financial year of 18,233. That is an increase of 747, or 4.1% increase. The next category is assault with intent to inflict grievous bodily harm.
2017-18, we recorded 167,352. The reference period 2018-19, we reported 170,979. That is an increase of 3,627, or 2.2% increase. The next category is common assault, from 156,243, currently 262,012, an increase of 5,769, percentage change of 3.7. Common robbery, 50,730 in the 2017-18 to 51,765 in 2018-19, an increase of 1,085 or 2.0% increase. Robbery with aggravating circumstances, which is made up of carjacking, robbery at residential premises, robbery at non-residential premises, robbery of cash in transit, bank robbery, truck hijacking, robbery with a weapon other than a firearm, has increased by 1,668, a 1.2% increase. However, when you go into the details of the crimes that make up the robbery with aggravating circumstances, the only crime that has increased within that category is robbery at residential premises, whereby currently we recorded 22,431, an increase of 170, a percentage change of 0.8. Carjacking decreased by 299, which is a 1.8% decrease. Robbery at non-residential premises decreased by 56 or 0.3%. Robbery of cash in transit decreased by 55 incidents, which is a 23.1% decrease. Bank robbery decreased by 9 incidents. Truck hijacking decreased by 20 incidents, which is a 1.7% decrease. Then the second broad category that we report on is the contact-related crimes, which is made up of arson and malicious damage to property. Arson increased by 214 cases, or 5.5%. Malicious damage to property increased by 1,597, which is a 1.4% increase. And the broad category total contact crimes increased by 1.6. Robbery at property-related crimes, which is made up of burglary and non-residential, burglary at residential, theft of motor vehicle, theft out of stock theft. The only crime that has increased was the theft out of stock theft, which increased by 829 or 2.9% increase. The decrease in the burglary at non-residential is 29 incidents, which is a 0.0% increase. But given the volume of the crimes that have been reported in that instance, vis-a-vis the percentage change or the numbers that have increased, that's why it results in a 0.0% increase. Then other serious crimes, the broad category itself increased by 1.4%. Then all theft, not mentioned elsewhere, decreased by 0.7%. Commercial crimes increased by 14.4%. Shoplifting by 3.2% decrease. And then the crime detected as a result of police action, the only one that has decreased was a drug-related crime increase. Decreased is a drug-related crime whereby we recorded 90,890 cases less. This might have been due to the change in legislation in terms of illegal possession of marijuana for personal use. Then sexual offences as a result of police action increased by 1,275. That is a 19.0% increase. And that is the summary of the annual crime statistics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Spikone. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that you're quite anxious to get your questions in. What we'll do is open the floor to questions. I'll take 3 questions at a time. And I'll also take some questions from the capital city, but let's start here in the mother city. Please indicate with your hands, please, and also identify the media house that you represent.
Good morning, Minister. Paul Bheki Cele from Bloomberg News. Could the General please give us the international stand for murder rate, that is, the number of murders per 100,000 of population? Thank you.
All right, before we continue, I'd like to also just acknowledge the presence of the Hawks head, Dr. Luria, who is in the panel this morning. You can go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Landgaarder, News 24. Minister, you said earlier, I think it was at your budget briefing last year, that heads will roll if the stats doesn't come down. So will heads roll, and if so, whose heads and when? Thanks.
All right, we'll take just one more question. Over to you.
Yes, Linda Inso from Business Day. Major General, could you give us the rate to population of the murder rate, please, compared to last year? Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll hand it over to the panel.
We're answering now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I think I have one question, but the other is for the general dealing with the statistics. I did read what I said last year again today. I don't know if you didn't hear it. I said we will never be worse than where we were last year. The worst that we can do is to stagnate and then begin to reverse. That's why I made that point. I gave the figure that we have halved the figure that we have increased with it last year. You saw that figure, 1,320 to 686. That was that. But also on fear crimes. It's interesting that nobody speaks about cash heist anymore. It's very interesting because that's a question I had to answer big time last year. Cash heist, and nobody this year is coming close to that. So, indeed, we're not where we want to be, but we are not where we were last time. So we believe we have stagnated. Ours now is to reverse. So the heads can roll because they're expected to shift back. They've managed to stop. They'll have to reverse. So allow the heads to reverse the situation, especially on some of the areas. Matter indeed, 686 people dead is a lot of number, but knowing that they've cut from 1,300. So let's give them to say to them, go back to green, move away from right now. But also say to them, last year you had almost a cash heist almost every day, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. And then the car hijack, the truck hijack. So I think we need to look at broader and say, yes, Tim, you are not good as we want you to be, but you are not bad as you were. So maybe for that reason, the heads must be given an opportunity to work, and we see that they do better things. From our side as a ministry, we do not see the reason that they must roll now.
I think the two questions that were asked relate to the murder rate of 100,000. In the previous financial year, we had 35.8 per 100,000. In the current reporting period, we had 36.4 per 100,000. 35.8 per 100,000. Currently, 36.4 per 100,000.
All right, let's take it to the capital city.
Thank you, Renaldo, and good morning to the Minister, Deputy Ministers, the panelists and colleagues. I think we have a question in Pretoria. I'll give over to the guy. Please identify yourself and your media house.
Thank you. It's Noah McGraw from Jacaranda FM. Minister, we just want to know, there seems to be an increase of murder during the weekend. What do police have a plan to mitigate that situation? What strategy will be used to make sure that goes down? And my other question is that when looking at the stats, there seems to be a huge increase in some police stations in Cape Town, where in Worcester, I'm not sure, it went down by 10%. Is it because of the military intervention that we are seeing that crime is lowering, it's less reported or going down in those police stations in the Western Cape?
Is there anybody else?
I think that was the only one from our side. Back to you.
Minister?
I'm not very sure if I heard very well, but I think the first question is, what do we do to reduce the murder rate? So maybe it's time to take an opportunity that we have been on good times in terms of the murder reduction. If you look back, your statistics, 2010, 2011, 12, we have the figures that really, high as they are, 15,000 is a high figure because human lives are lost there. But it's a figure that, as we look now, 21,000 is a lot of the increase of the murders. So there were things that were done properly that we need to reinvent, go back to them, and putting the new methods and methodologies in dealing with the crime. Some of them were in the speech were mentioned, to revitalizing some units that had impact before, the methods of broadening, working with more organization, NGOs, society at large, and everybody that can contribute, putting the shoulder on the wheel, but also working more as a cluster so that those people that they get arrested, we are able to put them where they're supposed to be. I must say that cluster itself is working much better than the previous years. 5-6 years is working much better. So that's the way that we will be working on. But also the further training of our units, especially the specialized units that respond to the high-powered crimes like your cash outs, your bank robberies, your car hijack, your truck hijack. We have brought back the young General Kwanazi to work on those matters. But again, sharpening our detectives, training more of the detectives, especially on the women issues, to make sure that the FCS achievements, they are even better. So we'll be getting extra details of how we're going to, now we have stagnated the increase of crime, working on the slowing down, so we are increasing our ways of reversing that situation. And we are very sure that we will be achieving the reversal of this situation. Western Cape station where we have reduced. By the way, most of the things you have seen in Western Cape, they would not be part of these crime stats. If you say you have seen that we have reduced crime in some areas and all that in Western Cape, it begins to bode well for the next financial crime statistics. These are up to from April up to March, and most of the efforts of the Western Cape have been done mostly at the very end of the previous financial year and this current financial year, which is a question that has been raised by especially the Portfolio Committee. How stale are we? How stale are our statistics by the time we release them. By the way, we can say that we are revisiting and we are discussing the matter, how frequent come the next years we'll be giving the statistics rather than once in a year. That is on the table, we're discussing it, and so that they are fresher, it's easy to respond, but South African are brought up to date with almost the current situation. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister. Anybody else in the capital? Well, in the mother city. Yes, Paul?
Paul Bheki Cele from Bloomberg again. Just on the murder rate per 100,000, the 2017-2018 year, the number was originally 35.2. Did I hear you correct saying that it was 35.4? I just wanted to just clarify that, and if there is a change, was there a revision?
I'll take another question. Yes.
Good morning, it's Alicia from the Sunday Times. When Minister General presented in the committee, he mentioned a number of 736 murders by children, and I think he said it's a new category in the States. Can you just give us more on this issue? I mean, it's very disturbing. Where do these murders take place? What age groups are we talking about? What instruments are these children using?
Okay, just one more. Over to you, sir.
Anil from this one. Commissioner, as far as sexual offences are concerned, do we have are all police stations, readily available to deal with rape victims? With regards to the anti-gang unit, how effective has it been? You have a few dozens of members in that unit dealing with thousands, if not tens of thousands of gang members in Cape Place. Thank you.
All right, we'll start with the question from Bloomberg. Over to you.
With regard to the murder rate, I think initially you asked whether there is an internationally accepted murder rate. There is no such. You cannot compare countries that have different economic conditions and try to set up an internationally accepted standard. The scenarios and the conditions in each country dictates that it's not possible to set such a standard. Having said that, last year when we released the crime statistics, normally we would get the median population estimates from Statistics South Africa. Then we were using a series, I think it was the 2014-2015 series, to recompute all those ratios. However, we made an error by taking the latest population estimates and juxtaposed it with the previous series. Having realized that, as is internationally acceptable, we wrote a revision and put it on the SAPS website to say that the trend of the murder, when you compare the ratio, is still the same. The only difference is the last number, which we then revised and put a revision note, which is what each and every credible statistical institution would do. And that's exactly what we have done. Hence, the change, currently, we did not follow that series. We just took the recently released and computed the current ratio, because we had issues in terms of like, when do you change the series from 1 year to the next year? So I think it's safe to say we will maybe, once we wrap our head around it, for now, use the recently released media population estimate. That's why in the presentation, we never even showed the trend. We just computed for the current financial year because, just a human error that is based on a mistake can be blown out of proportion. So we want to keep that we will only use the latest. Then in terms of the contact crimes, I think with regard to the children, it's not necessarily a new category. The reason is we want to make you understand the contributory and causative factors that are leading to these increases that we observe in the murders. And we look at it holistically. We looked at gang violence. We looked at the use and abuse of alcohol and drugs. We looked at the police murders. We looked at the farm murders. We also felt like for this current financial year, it would be ideal to also highlight the fact that the perception out there might be that these murders are committed by adults or children, whereas in some instances, it's the very same children who are killing their peers. A recent case, I think it was in Everton, where a 14-year-old boy stabbed a 17-year-old boy in school for a cell phone. So these are both children, but the one has killed the other. So we just took certain categories of crimes and then looked at those. Well, in instances of murder that are committed by children, the highest provinces was the Eastern Cape with 231 and the Western Cape with 170, which might not exclude the reason that this might also be gang-related murder. But we have not gone into the detail to determine that it was actually during gang-related violence. Thank you.
All right, let's just wrap this up.
There is a question of the police stations, the readiness of police station of dealing with the question of rape cases.
Yes, Minister, that is
sexual offences. Definitely, the station will not be on the same path. But what we are doing, all those that I know and that are there, we are improving the situation. One, we are improving the physical conditions of the station themselves. That as I hate this word victim, that the people that have been abused are called victims. I hate. So there are these care centers where abused women will go there, separated from the ordinary CSC, and get some privacy there. Also, the care centers will have some overnight kind of facility. For instance, if a woman comes at 11 or 12, you don't know what to do, there must be at least an opportunity of an overnight facility, the bed, the toys for the child, and all that to work on that until she's handed over to the relevant structure the next day. That one, but also training more people, as we have said, that especially with the female trainees or female trained people to deal with the matters, because it's always, I guess, a difficult situation for a lady to go and explain how was he raped, explaining to another man. So that will be the easier one to deal with those matters. We have really good facilities. Others are improving, but all stations that are coming in existence, we make sure that is happening. The last one is about gangsters. You will never have a number of police each looking after one gangster. It will be a number of police working on the particular project. At the present moment, we are having 20. If we're talking about government or management, we're saying middle management gangsters that are appearing here in Cape Town, working with the structures that have been there, but also assisted by the new approach of your anti-gang unit, your Operation Thunder, including the deployment of the soldiers here. Yes, quite several gangsters have been arrested, high profile of them have been arrested, serious and many other activities have been stopped of the gangsters. we believe that we are getting on top, and we'll be able to deal with the gangsters issues going forward. At the present moment, we're even preparing even further to be ready when the withdrawal of the South African National Defence Force comes, during the time that it comes, and we must be ready by that time to say, as South African police, we handle that space. So far, the projects that have been put there, the operations are working when it comes to dealing with the gangsterism in the Western Cape. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister. I believe there is one question in the capital. Let's just take that one and then we wrap it up here in Cape Town. Pretoria?
Thank you, Lorenzo. We have a follow-up question from Pretoria News.
Thank you so much. It's now again from Jakarta FM. General Skukuli, just one last question. When we look at the Serpentine community reported serious crimes, there seems to be a decrease in Gauteng and the Western Cape. However, when you're looking at rural provinces, there seems to be an increase. What do the stats say or suggest from your side?
All right. Let's,
Thank you. That's all from our side.
Sure, thanks. Let's take the last round here in Cape Town. Lester, let's start with you.
Thank you very much, Lester from Meringadi. But let's start like your opinion on, or your analysis on the phenomenon of violent crime between people who know each other, particularly when you look at gender-based violence and domestic violence, which often relate to murder. I know you said you want to bring in sociologists and criminologists to help unpack it, but I'd like your opinion on that. And secondly, because of the high rate of alcohol-related and drug-related violent crimes, particularly in alcohol, I'd like your opinion whether you would lobby for tougher regulation, legislation around the use of alcohol.
All right, thanks, Lester. I think I'll take it in.
I'm Tiana from Newsroom Africa. I just want to ask about Nyanga. Are you concerned that it has once again been top of the locations in terms of the murder rate? Are you in any way concerned that it consecutively comes up as one of the top ranking murder locations in South Africa?
All right, let me take the lady in the corner and I'll come up.
Minister Lulala Mamaja, SABC, it's a follow-up on the Nyanga question. Have you been able to establish what is the root cause of these high murders, especially in Nyanga and in the Western Cape generally?
All right, and oh, there's quite a few. So let me wrap this up and then we'll go for another one because it is quite a lot of questions. Over to you, Minister.
Well, I don't think I'm very qualified to talk about. I'm a teetotaler. I don't take alcohol at all, including I don't dine in wine. I just dine. So it would be unfair then to use those standards in terms of people taking alcohol. But I must assure you, alcohol has a big portion of crime, of people committing crime, no doubt about that. Firstly, we have taken a decision in South African police to be harsh and tough on crime. We have been moving with you here, showing our warehouses where the confiscated alcohol is kept. Most of the confiscated alcohol is that from the illegal, unlicensed shipments. So for us, we have a rule. We don't negotiate that one, we shut that one down, and you confiscate, go forward, and take the people that you find there. The troublesome one will be the so-called legal and those that have license, and then break the law. Like you find the so-called license with lot of under 18s. That makes it immediately illegal because it's breaking the law. One thing that they break most is the time. Instead of closing at 2, they close at 3, closing at 4. But also is a granting of those licenses. surely dealing with the local government people, dealing with the people that alcohol or liquor boards and all that is one thing that we talk about, to say you can't give a license that closes at 4 in the morning, and you go there, you rate the shipping, they show you the license that they're supposed to close at 4. The longer they stay there, more they drink, more they kill one another as they move out there. Yes, anything from the South African police view that limits the abuse of alcohol will support it. Well, I know there is a bill on the market of 18 to 21 years. For me, if you say I must come, I would have said 30 years, but it's fine that they argue about 21, 18 and all that. So your answer will support anything that limits the abuse of alcohol, because it has proven that alcohol does cause the increase of crime. No doubt about that. Nyanga, if I'm not mistaken, it has been there for many years, but Nyanga police station per se, this year, Babu Skopon, the police station, I think it has decreased. The police station itself, this has decreased, but it's a question of a precinct, what you call about the Nyanga precinct, but police station per se, which means people have begun to work on the police station issues. So maybe going forward, Commissioner and all of us analyzing, we might have to break it further rather than making a bigger precinct, but making smaller precincts around it, which maybe will begin to cleanse the name of the police station per se. But there is an additional question: what makes murder high in Western Cape and in the Cape Flat mostly? We have been saying this thing, that crime is not just policing and the law enforcement agencies only. There is a big portion that must be played by what we call environmental design. Minister Mbalula went to Marikana, the Cape Town Marikana, not other Marikana, in the year that was when 11 people were shot and killed. One thing that he raised, he requested these tall pole lights, requested that. So it was looked around, and then it was decided that the local government and province will put 8 of them. As we speak, is 1 of them, and is not working. So if you go there, we've got this tendency of going to these places at night. You can't see beyond your hand. If you go to places like your Marikana, your Skalo, some areas at Nyanga, Khayelitsha and all that. Khayelitsha side C, police was killed there. And we, under the camera, we tried to get the footage, and we discovered that for 8 years the camera is not working. So these are the things that need to be improved. Hence, the crime situation cannot be the police, national government and agencies only. It's for all of us. Things to be done by provincial government, things to be done by local government. Somebody did ask the question about everybody coming together. That's why tomorrow or Saturday is addressing the imbizo of more departments, more NGOs here in Western Cape in trying to deal with crime issues, including your social development, including your human settlement, including your education, especially your basic education. You go to Hanover Park, you go to Lavender Hill, you have a meeting at 11 on Tuesday there are more children at the meeting than parents. And those children are endangered to be a pool of recruitment for gangsters and all that. So for the crime really to be defeated is a combination of many government departments, NGOs, and all other people that can make the input on that one. It is at the score that from the side of the police, we're working hard to pull everybody to work together to make conditions better and to make the policing in a chain form better with South African police prosecution and up to the correctional services.
Thank you, Minister. There was one question for you, Lieutenant, about why is it serious crimes are somehow high in urban areas and lower, or rather high in rural areas and lower in urban areas?
I'm not sure. I think the question that was asked was why are the small provinces reducing in terms of the 17 community reported crimes? One thing that maybe one needs to look into is that there is no magic wand that you can wand and say this is the cause of the reduction. Crime is a factor that is, there's a lot of contributions into the issue of crime. It can be unemployment, it can be strikes, it can be so many other things. The other thing that maybe I would like to talk to is the issue of the volumes of crimes. If you look at the contact crimes, they are producing around 39-point-something% in terms of our crimes. And when you look at the provinces, they are all on the increase. Maybe one other thing that a person should look into is the increase in terms of the other broad categories of contact-related, property-related, other serious crimes. And if there's a category that is decreasing in a certain province, then you have to take the difference between the decrease that has been reported in that particular province versus the other broad categories. Then you can then be in a position to make a guided guess in terms of what are the contributory factors to the reduction in a particular province. But attributing it to one phenomenon, I don't think you can be in a position to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lorenzo, there's an issue by Lester here on gender-based violence and domestic violence. It is a very complex issue, not only for the South African police services, but the world over. If it is never reported, they can never know. So what is happening is that statisticians all over the world, and previously here in South Africa we used to have what we call victims of crime, but now we have what a broader survey called Governance, Peace, Security, Justice Survey. Now it's got a module that looks at the victims of crime. In cases like domestic violence, you have to talk to the people themselves. So what we do is when we go out there and interview them on the sample dwelling units, we separate them from everyone, anyone over the age of 16, from 16 years and above. We speak to them, so they are representative of anyone they know in the family or in the household, or they speak for themselves. One thing that you realize is, while the trends remain the same with the crime statistics released by the police from time to time, in relation to the victims themselves, you see that there is an increase in numbers when we look at it from that side. It's because we talk to the affected people and we pick up cases that are never reported. So if you look at the entire criminal justice system, we look at the number of crime incidents at household level or at personal level. Then we look at the number of cases that are reported, all the way to whether the cases have gone to court and there have been convictions and the like. So it tends to assist in relation to that. But it's a matter that cannot be resolved worldwide by the police. We need to see change in societal values. and the way we deal with crime. Crime remains crime. Most of the time, domestic crime, including gender-based violence, is that families will sit and want to discuss this at family level rather than allowing the matter to be handled by the criminal justice system. And Paul has stepped out, I see. He had raised an issue of revisions earlier from Bloomberg. It's not happening here in South Africa alone. It's not happening to the South African police services. Even we in Stats SA, you remember recently when we released the GDP, we indicated the revisions based on latest information, and when there are errors in terms of the United Nations fundamental principles of official statistics, such information should be withdrawn and revisions or updated information are made available. And even in this case of the police, they went public, but even if it happened with us as SSA, we would certainly have to go public. So it's how it works in official statistics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, SG, for that. Let's take the last round, colleagues. I see 3 hands, and I will take those 3 hands. Is that fair? All right. Let's start with you with the... Okay, and 2 more.
Here, where? Okay, what will consider that? Okay.
All right.
My name is Tsekolopula. I'm with Independent.
Okay, the mic was not on from Cape Town. We didn't hear the question, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Is mine on?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Tsekolopula and I'm with Independent Media. My question is more of a follow-up with regards to having smaller precincts for problem police stations. I see Khayelitsha and Delft have recorded increases in murders and are in the top 30 across the country. And there's been a call for another police station in Khayelitsha for Makaza. And that's been a call that's been on for the last 5 years. Are there plans to still build that police stations? And how has the satellite police station in Samora Machel affected the decrease in the Nyanga precinct? Thank you.
All right, colleagues, just one more.
Jean van der Walt from Miss Weekly. The Major General said during the portfolio briefing that there's an increase in stock theft and across all provinces, and that you would like to focus more on it, bringing it down. I just want to know what do you plan, how do you plan to bring it down? And then I just want to know which farms are mostly affected by stock theft. Which farms, like is it a commercial farmer or a rural farmer?
All right, thank you. With that, over to the panel.
The small stations, many of them, that approach. The Commission will answer the question of the smaller stations, when the other one was specific. What happened for the decrease? There were good practices that were there. One thing that happened, we are on the way for revival of the team now. What was called as a tracking team. People that were trained and were there to make sure that they get every criminal we want. Their job was one. Wake up in the morning, go to the crime intelligence, go to the detective and say, give us the list of the people we want most today. And then their job would go and get those people. So there was a high degree of arrest. So people began to understand that if you committed this crime, then you'll be arrested. So the commissioner now is working with the provincial commissioners in dealing with those teams going forward. The other things was to train and make the visibility of the South African police on the streets, especially on the areas that would have been a high risk. One easy thing for the South African police to do to reduce crime is a visibility. You'll remember that most of the exit and entrance in the townships and highways and the areas like your Sentin and all, you would have the cars that are parked there that will be visible 24 hours, blue light and all that. That visibility made a lot of sense to the general populace and a lot of fear with the criminals. So it reduced some of the things, unfortunately, cannot be said that we did now, but that we are bringing back. But with the old working methodologies and the new that we are working on, we will be reducing a crime, especially fear crime, and the murder itself will be able. But big portion that we'll put there is the visibility of the South African police and quick response, and working with the prosecution that those people are sent where they belong, where they're supposed to be. Commissioner, on the Samora and Makaza and all that.
No, thank you very much, Minister. Maybe firstly, the construction of the police station on the agenda is still continuing, and it's part and parcel of the service delivery access priority list. But I would like to give the explanation in this way, that the process that we're following now, all police stations are divided according to sectors. And we start by profiling each sector, because those sectors, they constitute the profile, the total profile of the police station. Then we're also monitoring the spatial development stretch, which is done through spatial development analysis. Then as your spatial development takes its course, one of the sectors will get affected. And it may happen that the access to service delivery by the communities become displaced. Then we graduate that particular sector to the satellite, from a contact point to a satellite. We also continue with the profiling of the sector, of the satellites. The satellite where the spatial development overstretches, then we graduate it to what we call a quick service delivery access police station. And these are the police stations like Samora Machel. It's a police station that would take minimum 6 months and not more than 10 months. So within the same financial year, we can contract that police station and finalize it. But it's a fully fledged police station. Then if the spatial development goes beyond that, then that's when we come to a capital project police station, which is what we refer to as the university police station. And that is your biggest police station. So currently the service delivery access strategy has been put in place and is being executed. And an audit has been taken nationally. And then so that we get the number of those police stations that we should contract, and then as a matter of agents. Thank you.
The issue on stock theft, I wanted to bring it to the fore so that people should know that there's a crime. That there's an issue of stock theft that is happening in our country. The reason why I said we need to focus on it is because stock theft is not a spectacular crime like your cash in transit, where you will see people taking footage and distributing it over the social media, etc. It happens in private spaces, among people who are not unionized, whereby there won't be any somebody to bring to the attention of the police that there's an increase in cash in transit prices. It's happening mostly for people who are in the rural areas, who are not unionized, who do not have a voice or a union to speak on their behalf. So highlighting it shows that these are areas of concern that we need to focus on as the police, so that these people can also have a voice. And in terms of where it is happening, 9,273 of these happened in rural areas, 7,865 happened in inhabited areas, and then 1,652 in informal residence areas. So deeper analysis will have to be done so that we can be in a position to proactively guide in terms of what needs to be prioritized. Thank you.
Acting on that, it's one area where we are taking it very serious, the question of this North Theft. It's got a huge economic impact negatively. You ask if it is commercial or ordinary communal farmers out there. It's anywhere. It's anywhere, and it's a loss of the serious income. You remember that a certain individual that has got 20 of cattle and you take it all to him or to that household, that is the highest bank robbery. That is not spectacular for us to send the helicopters because it's not a cash out, but the impact might be even worse than for that household that is not insured, that they've put on the 30 head of cattle all their pension and all that. So it's something that we are really working hard as the South African police. But also, maybe what the General Skukune has not said, is becoming, or it is a highly organized. It's not just haphazard. It's organized. We know that many Shisanyamas, they are using the stolen meat rather than the meat. Many of them they use. Even sometimes the official institution, you find that there are some hospitals where they are supplied with the stolen meat. So we're putting it there. We're putting resources. But also remember, it's a cross-border crime. It's a cross-border crime, especially those rural areas and farmers that are near the borders, your Lesotho, your Mozambique, your Zim, and all that. So they are also on the agenda when we meet with our counterparts on the other side. And we speak with the Mozambican Minister of Police, your Lesotho. I know for sure last week there was a meeting between the MSC and the MSC Free State with the officials from Lesotho to work on these matters of the cross-border as organized, and people dying quietly because the whole accumulation of your wealth for all your life is taken one night. The last point on this is not just the stealing, it has become so violent. It's become violent. They come and knock at your door and they tell you not to come out, and there'll be one or two gunshots that warning you not to come out, and they take the whole crawl and they go. So the South African police is one area that really needs concern. Unfortunately, it's not dramatic as other areas of crime, but those people are having a quiet death in terms of economy.
Thank you so much, Minister, for that. This brings to a close of our press briefing. But I think also please indicate if you will need someone once. Be reminded that the Minister and the panel do have to rush. But with that, thank you for your attendance.
This
That's a bigger person, ma'am. Minister doesn't care we have
Hey,